Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Today we have Claudia Kohlman from Procter and Gamble, also known as simply P&G. Claudia is a dynamic brand strategist and design executive with 20 plus years of experience across a broad spectrum of consumer categories, everything from motor oil to beauty care. She has proven leadership in harnessing creativity and teamwork to develop design vision and strategy for some of the world's leading brands, including Olay, Pringles, Tampax, Venus, and Always. She is an outstanding leader, I can vouch for that, communicator, I can vouch for that, and strategist with ability to connect the value of design as a business building competitive advantage. And I personally feel very privileged to have Claudia with us and for P&G to take an interest in all of our wonderful students. So having said that, Claudia, please take it away.
Thank you so much, John, and thanks all of you for joining on this dreary day. I am in Cincinnati, Ohio, so we are experiencing some very similar weather today. I am actually going to start our presentation today with a quick video, an overview of design at P&G. So if you'll bear with me for just a moment. Okay. So let me first give you a quick overview about P&G, the company. So we have about 65 leading brands. We sell in over 880 countries around the world. Our recent fiscal year ended and we had $76 billion in net sales. That's globally. There are 5 billion consumers using our brands around the world. In our workforce, we have over 40,000 women and growing, and greater than 145 nationalities around the globe. So it's a significant company with a lot of reach and a lot of brands. Lots of these brands you probably have in your homes or have used at some point. We are actually organized into 5 major business units. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but I'll explain later from a design perspective on why that matters. So we have fabric and home care, baby, feminine, and family care, beauty care, grooming, and health care. So we have something called our PVPs, or our purpose, values, and principles. And this really is the foundation of everything we do, both internally and externally. We put our consumers and our people first, and then our brands and our businesses. And everything we do is surrounded by our values of integrity, leadership, ownership, passion for winning, and trust. We believe really strongly in these because it helps to, it gives a little glimpse into the kind of culture that you would experience at P&G, which I think is rather unique in a company of our size. We are deeply committed to building citizenship into our business. So in every single business, there are efforts, again, both internally and externally, around ethics and corporate responsibility. What's our impact in the community? Diversity and inclusion, gender equality, environmental sustainability, and much, much more. And that's because really at its core, P&G, our mission is about improving lives and improving life. And again, that is both internally and externally. And we use the power of our brands and the power of the size of our company to spark movements wherever we can. So you've probably seen advertisements from Always about like a girl and girls' confidence at the age of 13 when women typically start menstruating. You've probably seen a lot of our equality, both gender and race equality efforts, both again in advertising and in some of our movements that happen more publicly. We try to use our voice to shine light on bias, whether that's about women and equal pay and secrets efforts to contribute to equal pay, the pay gap for women, really. And in racial equality, also, we use our voice to shine a light on bias. You may have seen our films on The Talk and The Look, where we take on bias against people of color head on. Again, both with our brands and externally, just messaging and supporting some of the big organizations that help to advance these causes. So now I want to spend a little time telling you about design at P&G. We have a design function that is organized both across our research and development as well as our brand functions. If you're not familiar with how companies organize, generally companies who are consumer products, companies like ours, will have a research and development and a brand development place that are both make up the most functions of the company and most of our employees as well. Design sits across both. Typically, our industrial designers, or we call them innovation designers, will sit in R&D, and our graphic designers or visual expression, visual communications designers sit in what we call brand. P&G, I told you we have offices all over the world. We have design studios all over the world as well. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this. Our main or organizational location for design is in North America, again, mostly actually in Cincinnati. We're a relatively small function for a company of 100 and almost 10,000 people. We have 450 in design. So we are small and mighty and tend to be located where our big businesses are located. I told you a little bit about how our businesses are organized. Instead of having just one central design function, we actually have design teams in each of these businesses. So when you come to Procter & Gamble, either as a co-op or as a full-time hire, you are generally hired not only into a business like fabric and home care, but you are hired to work on a specific brand or a piece of the business. Like fabric care, you could be hired into Tide, either as an industrial designer or a brand expression designer. Although I will tell you, those lines are blurred these days with people coming in with much more multidisciplinary design skills, which is actually one of the reasons I think that students at Michigan have a huge competitive advantage in the way you guys are generally trained as multidisciplinary designers. Our studios in Cincinnati are generally, again, focused around the businesses. We have design skill sets in those teams across all disciplines. And depending on what the business needs are, there will also be very unique prototyping facilities, laser cutters in some not. Our downtown facility is generally, actually, this is where our corporate efforts are all located. Our CEO is located here, our chief design officer, and most of the brand parts of the function are here as well. And then in our studios around the country, we tend to have much more of the cross-disciplinary industrial designers, digital designers, et cetera. And I will tell you that each of these has a very different culture of their own, depending on the business as well. So now I want to share a little bit about each of our sort of key design disciplines and how they show up at P&G.
My first day, I jumped straight onto my project teams. I can't pretend like it wasn't overwhelming stepping into such a big company with so much work going on. This taught me to not only think and learn quickly, but it forced me to step out of my comfort zone and put myself out there. Right away, I had a seat at the table and was treated as an actual member of my team rather than just an intern. As an innovation design co-op at P&G, I work on front-end innovation for our products. Everything from research and concept ideation to crafting prototypes and downstream implementation. I've worked in both the paper sector and the beauty sector. P&G has provided me with the environment, resources, and people to evolve me into an inspired, confident, and passionate designer with a hunger for success and knowledge. The community of design at P&G isn't just here for themselves. They're here to help, inspire, and grow you. Every day, I get to affect the way our consumers interact with our products and the experiences they have with our brands. It's hard to believe the amount of influence and experiences I've gained as an innovation design co-op at P&G.
So that was a woman named Pooja Mehta, who actually just joined us as a full-time hire a couple of years ago after doing, I think, 2 co-op sessions. And she really touched on something I want to highlight for all of you, which is one of the reasons that I'm actually at P&G, and that is the growth and development piece. So I've been at P&G for nearly 20 years, and I came here with 13 years prior experience. I'm totally aging myself in working in advertising agencies and design firms. And I pretty much made a career out of not being at large companies because I was afraid of getting lost and I wanted to learn. And I assumed that the nurturing environments of smaller companies would give me more opportunity to learn. And I did that for a long time. And when I came to P&G, I actually came here because my client was retiring. And in 2002, we were really growing the design function as a major competitive advantage. So it was the right time. And I actually have found that there's much more investment in my growth and development at Procter & Gamble than there ever has been in a small company. Basically because with 101,000 employees or 110, whatever we're up to now, we put such a high premium on growing and developing our people internally to keep you here for a long time and help you see how many opportunities there are. And it certainly wasn't the mindset that I came in with. And so going to training is a badge of honor. It is not, something you sort of mutter under your breath and apologize for. So going back to industrial design, this is just a recent example of a real problem that our industrial designers were solving with Tide, as we noticed in the advent of e-com, which has grown immensely for us, that just putting our packages that we put in the store in boxes, they would leak, they would arrive, crumpled. And so this Tide box, which is also an example of sustainability because there's a refill involved, was one of the big innovations that our industrial designers brought to the business. And oh, by the way, it fits better on a pallet, so everybody's happy, including our key customers. And when we say customer, we mean retailers like Walmart and Target. So now a little bit about digital design.
At P&G, our digital design group creates apps and web experiences that bring together product mastery, physical devices, and sensors. The work starts with research by auditing the competitive landscape, conducting user interviews, and creating personas and journey maps. User flows, information architecture, and wireframes are then created, followed by mockups, clickable prototypes, design systems, and content guidelines. As a result, we help consumers track and schedule routines and get better, more personalized results. We also create direct-to-consumer brands and e-commerce stores using graphic design skills like layout, typography, and branding, blended with digital skills such as interaction and responsive design and user interface best practices. This work is used from early stage incubation and concept testing all the way to creating ongoing businesses. To support these, design helps create visual brand worlds, content calendars, and campaigns to create holistic branded experiences across the entire customer journey, from discovery to purchase to use and beyond. To visually tell our stories, we also create intuitive and engaging content for our brands and products. We use this content to build relationships and drive accelerated learning by creating thumb-stopping cinematic media. This work includes photography and videography, post-production and editing, as well as 2D and 3D animation. For this, our designers create storyboards, make shot lists, lead location scouting and casting, as well as composite together the final assets. Together, these three buckets of work create holistic, functional, and beautiful consumer experiences for both our digital and physical products.
I have another story to share, which I'll tell you in just a minute. Digital design is a capability that we've been putting a lot of focus in, not surprisingly, over the last few years. And trying, really, this is an example of how we're articulating to the business the importance of design's role in each of these key areas. P&G is a company that is built on technology. I don't know if anybody knows anything about the history of the company, but there's a reason we're in Cincinnati, Ohio, along the Ohio River, where there was a lot of pigs and pig fat. We started as a candle company and a soap company. And so with the technology at our root, it was a long time before the power of branding and the power of design actually became a competitive advantage for us. And in fact, the historical story or the legend is that William Procter, who was our really first branding person in the company, spent 7 years trying to convince the company that branding could make a difference. So before it was Ivory soap, it was just called white soap, and it was put in a very generic box. And he spent 7 years getting data on how consumers responded differently in market to an Ivory soap branded product, which sounds completely ridiculous to us today. But the same is true of digital design, in a company that is as large as us, trying to convince all the places that design can make a difference. This has been a big and recent success area for us across all areas of digital design. What I wanted to point out, though, in that video is if you caught a glimpse of the beard care line. So that was actually an innovation presented by a very passionate designer to his business, who was working in hair care at the time and recognized that many of our formulations in hair care could also be used for beard care. And so he took the initiative to create an entire lineup for Old Spice and presented it to the business, and now you can find it in market. So it's just a great example of even though we're a huge company with a small design function, there's so much opportunity for designers to recognize business opportunities out of passion, out of personal passion and personal areas of interest, and bring it to the company and have the opportunity to have them actually go to market. We sometimes forget that we are also consumers. And then, of course, there's brand expression, which is our fancy way of saying graphic design, which is at the core of everything that we do with our packages in store and online. And so here are some more examples of Old Spice. So we have designers who lead all of our visual identity for our brands, ensuring that there is, both consistency and creativity across all touch points. We work integrally with marketing to both establish and develop our brand's purposes and our characters, and bring them to life across all touch points, which truly is the magic that design brings to the business. So we talk about it as it can't just be about great design. It has to be about great design that builds the business. And these are just some examples of some of our brands coming to life and some of our recent innovations. So why P&G? I'm sure P&G, well, I shouldn't say this, it's very self-denigrating, but we're not necessarily the first company you think about when you think about great design, even though so many of the world's consumers use our products. But it is, I think we have a huge advantage internally. So you will have, whether you are a co-op or a new hire, you have a dedicated work plan on day one. It is super clear what you're working on. This is an example of what we call an impact plan, where you'll have like 3 to 5, I'm saying real projects, because sometimes you go into a company as a co-op or a new hire and you're just sort of making things look pretty, decorating, PowerPoints or working alongside and shadowing others. You'll have some of that. Of course, you'll be shadowing others and learning from them. But because we are so small, everything that we are doing in design is on the most important priorities for the business. We can't afford to be working on low priority projects. And we put a lot of time and effort into our impact plans to both lay out the goals and also establish what are the success criteria. What is it that, how will we measure whether you've obtained success? Again, either you're in your 10 to 12 week co-op session with us or as a new hire. You'll get to work with multidisciplinary teams. You won't just be hidden in the shadows. You will have formal training. We set people up with mentors. As an intern, we have both corporate and business events to introduce you both to people within your business unit, but also to give you exposure to some of the other studios and opportunities in P&G design. And we also give you an opportunity to have a midterm and a final presentation of your work, which also there's a formal evaluation of how successful was your session with us. I did sort of just touch on this, what co-ops say about P&G. They're consistently surprised. P&G makes me feel valued, allows me to be a leader. I had results from the work that I did, and it was one of the most open and creatively satisfying roles I've ever had. So whatever preconceived notions you have about P&G, I just want to reassure you that this is a place where we really take development seriously. And candidly, our co-op program is our strongest pipeline for talent as we think about hiring people long-term. And that's mainly because it's given you an opportunity to have some insight into what are the roles and responsibilities that you can have in a company like P&G. What do you love doing? What do you hate doing? And it gives us an opportunity to see if you're a fit for the company as well. We do have, by the way, 3 co-op sessions a year. So I know some of you, this is an audience of graduation dates that are coming up soon and those that are maybe a little further off. We have 3 sessions a year. I'm only showing you 2, but we have spring, summer, and fall co-op sessions. Our spring session deadline has already passed. But I think that's largely irrelevant for all of you because your co-op sessions are generally in the summer. So our summer deadline is not until February. So you've got lots of time to consider, if you would like to apply. Our session date is typically May through August. And we tighten that up depending on what your availability is and when school both ends and starts for you. We also have full-time opportunities. I will show you how to look for those in just a moment. Usually you'll find them in our website as an industrial designer, a digital designer, a digital product designer, or a graphic designer. And I know that sounds incredibly specific, It's just the way the company is organized. But again, there's an opportunity to bring multiple skill sets, even if you have a focus of one of those. And by the way, these job openings are changing all the time. So here's what the application process looks like. So first of all, you get online to pgcareers.com. I'll tell you in a moment about the coding system and how to look for a P&G job, or you just contact me and I can tell you what's open. You have to go through an initial application process that'll take about 15 minutes. And it's the classic stuff. It's your name, it's your address, it's your resume, and it's also a link to your portfolio. Once the system, it also asks you some questions about your eligibility to work in the United States, et cetera, et cetera. Once the system acknowledges that that part is complete, assuming it's completed correctly, then the system will send you an email with a link to what we call our peak performance assessment. And this is a whole host of questions. It's a multiple choice, basically, test for different aspects of the company, which we call peak performance. So that's around productivity and leadership and collaboration. And that takes usually between 20 and 30 minutes. And then if you pass that, then you will be invited in for a portfolio review and an interview. It's a bit of a process. Here's where you go to look for, or to actually start the design, the application process. It's PG Careers, sorry, that should be a .com, not a /com, /US-design. And there will be a design DSN is what you want to look for, code number. I am happy to share those with you. I did not bring them today because we're in the process of changing and updating all of our numbers in the system. Long story, but we have just updated to a giant system internally. So I'm happy to share those with you. If you're looking for specifics, I can send it to John and I can tell you what all of those design code numbers are. But you basically search for a DSN and then it's like 0000, blah, blah, blah. And it's really important that it says DSN at the beginning, because if it says something else like MKT for marketing or RD, that means that it is a job in another function. I want to give you a little bit of insight into what we look for in your portfolio. This is really important and probably a little bit unexpected for all of you. So we really want to see 4 key components demonstrated in your portfolio. We want to see creative excellence. We want to see evidence of design thinking. How did you look at problem solving? How did you consider human factors? We want to see technical mastery, and we want to see evidence of some design leadership. And that can be either in terms of how did you either establish or apply a design strategy in your work? How strong are you at presenting, et cetera. So for all of these, we really want to see a sense of process. We don't want to just see the beginning or the end or just the bright, shiny object. We want to see, a couple of sentences. What was the objective of the project? What was the problem I was trying to solve? We want to see a sense of process. So show us some of your early sketches, maybe an early concept that failed miserably. We really want to see where did you fail and what did you learn? Because it is all of that process and thinking that leads to much stronger end results. So you heard me say this before, it's not just about great design. It has to be about great design that builds the business. And so this iterative process and demonstration in your portfolio, very important. A few application tips. We are looking both for a sense of leadership and collaboration and knowing when to follow. So we want people who really do think very highly of their abilities and have a strong confidence and ability to lead, and also an openness to learning and a humility to learn from others as well as learn from yourself in the process. Of course, not be afraid to make mistakes. We're looking for students with an entrepreneurial mindset, not afraid to try something, to propose something new, even in a company where we have processes that have been around for decades, we're always looking for new ideas and people who are unafraid to share those at every level, whether that's with your peers or with senior leaders. I also mentioned about the nurturing. So we help each other. We're looking for people who are willing to help others and help each other through the process. We're not just a competitive company with people who are, keeping things close to the chest. And of course, multitasking, detail oriented, clear with communication. This is a corporation, so the ability to both articulate your recommendations and the meaning of the design work that you're sharing, but also to be able to tie that to a business need and how it's going to increase sales is super important. But we also have to remember that we bring the magic of visualization and we bring things to life in a way that our multifunctional partners simply can't. So I'm going to close and give you guys an opportunity to ask questions. If you're not already following us on Instagram, please do at PG Design Team. And feel free to take a screen grab of this. I am more than happy to have any of you contact me and ask questions. I like to help people through the process. In a company this large, applying at P&G can feel a lot like a black hole, so I'm here to help in any way. I'm also happy to even do a portfolio review ahead of time if you're concerned about whether your portfolio is going to meet the needs of the business. And with that, I'm going to go off screen unless anybody wants to see anything again and just open it up for questions.
Claudia, thank you so much. If you have questions, we're a pretty small group, so you can either raise your hand and unmute, or if you're more comfortable and you want to drop a question into the chat, please feel free. The URL that Claudia shared is also in the chat, so if you want to just click on that and be able to put that in your browser, that's great. I also dropped into the chat the student programs, so that covers a broad range of internship, entry level, co-op information. So both of those are in the chat right now, and anybody who has questions, now would be the time. So please feel free.
I had a question about applying with the portfolio. If my work, like I know you said we could contact you and ask about it, but if my work is more illustration related or not really design oriented, would I be able to apply with that, or would I want to have a set of work specifically design related to apply?
Both would be great. Sometimes we are looking for illustrators, but I will tell you that with our core business being really consumer goods packaging, in some way, shape, or form, if you have a very specific skill set that's only around illustration, it's going to be a career limiter. You're going to need broader skill set across something that looks like branding. So whatever examples you can include, we don't expect it to be perfect because you guys are students. So, we just want to see some example of your ability to either develop a brand identity or to apply it in different touch points.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Hi, Andrew, I see your hand up.
Hi, how's it going? I'm curious as to how many of your new hires are recent graduates, and how important it is to have professional work history before you do get hired on.
That depends on the job that is open. So new hires who are, we do hire fresh out of college. So we're not expecting actually that you have much work experience outside of whatever co-ops you've been able to do throughout your education. So yeah, we are looking more at the portfolio in those situations, and that's what we would call our entry level new hire. We do also hire people with 5, 8, 10 years of experience, and that's a completely different profile than our entry level roles.
Okay, thank you.
And Selena, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, So I have two questions actually. So the first is I saw on the four like major categories that we can apply for. There's one called digital innovation design. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering what is that about?
So that's been usually in our businesses that are creating new products or services. So in that situation, that's all about how do we basically create a fake business online and see how appealing it is to a specific consumer set. So those digital designers are creating new websites. They're also, spending a lot of time deciding like, what is the meaning of this product or service and how are we going to sell it to this unique set of individuals. We did this, so I mentioned we have a fem care business, but our P&G Ventures, which is our new business arm, was looking at how might we serve consumers, women, beyond menopause. And right now we don't have any products. We've got a personal health business and we have menstrual products, but how do we serve this consumer after that? So we created a whole website and a brand to be able to interact with consumers and learn, what does she need? What does she want? Well, how did her needs change? That's the kind of digital innovation design that is happening at that level.
That sounds very interesting. Thank you so much. So
Interesting.
second question is more portfolio related. So adding up on her point. So um, are you looking at more like a portfolio that kind of designate onto a specific direction, or you would recommend something that contains a little bit mix of all the skills that you're looking for example, a little bit web design, a little bit application design, or like a little bit graphic design, for example, like a poster design, or just like all app design or website design?
Um, you should look at it more in terms of what are the pieces of work that I have in my portfolio that best demonstrate my skills? What are my most successful projects? What do I think is my best work? It is less important that it goes across every single example of design application. Don't put it in there just because you think you should have something website related. Put it in there because it's a great example at its core of branding. So personally, when I look at portfolios, I'm not even looking to see if you have packaging in there. Yes, that's nice, but it's very rare to have a packaging, example or experience. I want to see, how do you understand the importance of a brand's identity and how that can come to life either physically in industrial design or in a 2D format. That's the kind of stuff I'm looking for.
I see.
Put your
Thank you.
best foot forward.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
want to actually touch on this as well. When I'm advising students around a curriculum like ours, which is so interdisciplinary, I advise them, if they know very specifically, this is what I'm going for, that's great. But if they do, in fact, want to show work in different media, different ways of expression, my advice is to categorize really well so that you're
Yeah.
grouping together like projects. So here's a category on my product and industrial design. Here's a category on my graphic and visual communication design. So that when someone like Claudia gets the portfolio, she's not looking at everything as a mishmash, but can just click on categories to see like to like in terms of work. Does that work for you, Claudia? Do you look for
Yeah. Yeah.
categorization like that?
Sure. That works. That absolutely works.
Great. All right. Other questions that people have today?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, one man, go ahead.
Hi. So I want to know that. So you mentioned you have like multiple location in the world that has this design office. So
Yeah.
if you want to go to like one of this that is not in Cincinnati, should we also try to get there through like applying this co-op, or or we should just use another way to apply?
So right now, we really only have co-ops in the US. So between our Cincinnati and our Boston offices. By the way, Boston is where Gillette is located. So that's most of our shave care business. We have not started the co-op process in any of our other locations. And that's primarily because those are smaller design groups. I will say that from an employment perspective, you do need to have the ability to work in the US without sponsorship. If you have the ability to work in another country that has, a passport in another country, yes, but as a full-time hire, not as a co-op. So we have openings we have openings all across Asia. Our three main locations in Asia right now are Singapore is our largest presence. We have two offices in China, one in Beijing, one in Guangzhou. The Beijing studio is more industrial design. Our Guangzhou studio is more graphic design and digital design, and they're growing immensely. We also have offices in design studios in Europe, in both Brussels and Geneva.
So, Claudia, let's stick with this idea of international for a moment.
Yeah.
Curricular practical training, CPT, is what international students can use for an internship or co-op in the United States. Does P&G work with CPT students?
Not right now. Not right now.
Okay, because that does not require sponsorship in any way, shape, or form.
Right. But it limits your ability to get hired full-time after. And since we look at our co-op program as our pipeline of talent, we're not just hiring co-ops for capacity. We take it pretty seriously as a pipeline for talent.
Yeah, and that of course makes a lot of sense. So Juan, I'm sorry I I cut you off there. Did you have a follow-up question?
Yes. So my case is actually, so I am actually a US citizen right now, but I'm very interested because I immigrant from China to here. So I'm also very interested, like seeing if there is any opportunity to work in China. So
Yeah.
that's why I asked this question. Like, should I start it here or like?
So why don't you and I, if you'd like to reach out to me, why don't you and I talk about that offline? And I can give you some more specifics about what you might consider.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Claudia. Other questions today? No? All right. Claudia, it is always amazing to have you. I think the visual impact of brand when it comes to P&G, people don't necessarily expect because P&G is huge. And when you start to put all of those images and all of those brands together, it gives you an idea of just how much design has to go in to all of these things that we see that are through P&G. So the presentation part is always, again, kind of amazing to me at all the design that goes into what you guys do. And then your willingness, obviously, to be a contact for students who can follow up like Juan or any other student who's with us today or sees the recording who would like to be in touch with you. Your time is so valuable and you're very generous with it. Thank you.
I am more than happy to. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Hopefully you took a snapshot of my email. John has it, so happy to talk.
Excellent. And I want to thank you all today for being here. And with that, we will give it a wrap. And I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.